What would you do if anything were possible? What areas of your life are you ready to transform? What is the most important to you? In my life roadmap video, I asked a question of who you want to be. But what if you don't have a clear answer? After all, it is way easier to just do as society tells you, or to give in to daily inertia rather than explore the world of possibilities to discover what you truly want. But is that actually fulfilling? Hi, my name is Sheng, and I help organizations and people think through the toughest problems. Today, I'll show you how to use mind maps to train yourself to think without fear and boundaries, to explore your deepest hopes and redefine the words that you use to describe yourself, and finally, how to turn these insights into actions to remake your reality. In his excellent book, Winning Mindsets, the world's top stock trader and performance coach, Mark Minervini wrote, "Ask crappy questions, you get crappy answers. Ask empowering questions, you get empowering answers." He goes on to suggest these 10 questions to put ourselves in a different state of mind, a winner's mindset. I want to step further and turn these 10 questions into a 10-day empowering mind maps challenge. What you're going to do is map out your answers to each of these questions, one question per day over the course of 10 days. What I prefer is to do this exercise over my morning coffee in place of my daily journaling practice. The advantage of mind mapping over writing is that you don't have to think about the sequence of thoughts. No matter how wild your answers may be, you can just jot them down, draw them out as they come. You can be a lot more creative and open that way, which is the point of this exercise. You'll also be able to drill down into the most interesting elements to explore those themes further. What you're going to notice as you go through the 10 days is that 1, some themes might begin recurring, and number 2, these elements might be connected to each other. It's very important to pay special attention to these patterns because they might tell you some important things about who you are and what you want to do. All right, let's dive into some examples. All right, let's walk through the first example together. The first question we're going to tackle is, what would I do if anything were possible? So the first step is to actually write out the question. Okay. And what I prefer is to mind map from clockwise fashion. So I usually start from the right-hand side. So if I were to kind of just the first step is really just start listing them out. Don't worry about the sequence of things or anything like that. It's whatever wild ideas that come to mind. So for me, it could be to live in a new city every 1 to 3 months. That's always been one of my dreams since essentially coming back from London. Oops. There we go. I think the other thing would be to compete in a martial arts tournament, since I used to participate in that as a kid. And it's always been something that I've been really interested in. Then I might pick up some singing, because anything is possible, singing. That's also actually something that I did in high school, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. In the spirit of adventure, I have always wanted to do the Trans-Siberian Railway. Yep. And here's another thing that I've been talking about for a while now, which is starting a podcast. Because there are so many interesting people that I know I will know through probably YouTube as well. I've already got to know quite a few of you guys. There we go. And then I would say to be a famous strategist or speaker. I think it would just be really cool to share a lot of the things I've learned over time. And related to that is host meaningful events. That's actually one of the reasons why I ended up moving to San Francisco in the first place, is actually to, in search of community. I think hosting events, giving people a place to actually gather and meet each other is really, really important to me. I would say another thing for me is actually to talk to anybody without anxiety. Given that I'm more introverted leaning and there's still a lot of social anxiety around me actually approaching strangers especially, right? So talk to anybody without anxiety. This is related to my love for nature, which is to live off the grid for a year. I think that would be really, really cool. Kind of like, David Thoreau in Walden style, right? Literally just, go to a cabin and live off the grid. There we go. And then finally, it's actually been one of my dreams to learn a new language aside from Chinese, which is what I've grew up with, is to learn Spanish. I think it's just really, really practical and kind of opens up a lot of doors to travel as well as interactions. So learn Spanish. All right, this is basically a good collection of whatever comes to mind. That's kind of the first step. The second step is that, we want to put on our second order thinking hats. It's digging into why you want to do these and for what reason, right? We should always be asking for that. And that's really the power of mind maps, is that it allows you to expand on any of these. So let's go through some of these. So why do I want to live in a new city every 1 to 3 months? I mean, I don't want to do that forever and be a digital nomad. That's not really for me. However, I think it will be really good for me to get to know the people of each region. So for this particular note, I can actually expand out to be more concrete. For example, first I'll list out the cities or the areas I want to visit to just be more specific. There's Latin America or Latin. There's London, which is a second home for me always. And then there's Kyoto and Tokyo in Japan, which I've visited several times for work, but it's a very different thing when you actually are settled there to live there for a while. There's Southeast Asia or SEA, which I've never gone. And then finally there's Taiwan. I've heard so many good things about it, and again, I have not gone yet. So now I'm going to explore why I want to go to these places and spend some time there. I would say, well, get to know people. And why do I want to get to know people? Well, this kind of goes back to what brings meaning into my life, which is actually connecting deeply with people to form actual lasting relationships or deep relationships. So I would say deep relationships. There's a lot of learning to be had through travel and interactions. So learning. And you think about it, a lot of my content is actually springing from my learning also, right? Which then feeds into content. And then finally, because I started consulting and coaching, and some of my clients are actually located abroad, I feel like it would be super cool to actually go to, let's say, Taiwan, Tokyo, or London, and meet up with my clients either in real life or in the same time zone, or even just consult for the local companies. I think it's a really cool way to learn about the local ecosystem too, right? The business ecosystem. I would say coaching local clients. All right. I think that's a pretty good idea, right? So already you can see that we've got essentially the first order, what would I do if anything were possible? That's basically the event. And then you have the specifics of where you would want to go. And then finally, why you want to go. And then what does that actually look like? So we're expanding it out, and it gets more specific and also deeper as we go. And that's the whole point of this exercise, is to really flesh out the drivers behind the things you want, not just the topical things, right? All right, let's go through another thing. Let's say compete in a martial arts tourney. Well, that's just part of my childhood. Made me happy. It's a challenge, an exercise opportunity to exercise visualization. Singing, again, something that I used to have. Trans-Siberian Railway. Well, this is really for adventure, which has always been a bit of a theme in my life, especially when I was in MBA in college and growing up. Podcast, interesting people. Not only that, I think it's actually forming a deeper relationship and, again, understanding people. At this point, I actually notice a connection, right? So it's essentially interesting people. Podcast will then relate to getting to know people. So I can actually draw that arrow. It's a little bit ugly, but hey, you know what? That's your mind map, right? You'll be able to see the connections in a bit. Famous strategist and speaker. Well, why do I want to be famous? I actually think that it's less about the fame itself, but it's actually more about the reach. Because if being famous allows me to actually reach more people, help more people, I think it's actually worth it. In a lot of ways, I actually prefer to kind of live more quiet and still life, but I think this would be actually really cool, just as a lifetime achievement as well, right? So I would say, becoming a good teacher. And why? Well, to help people. I think there's also a point to be said about self-expression, which is something that I think, every one of us would like to do more, self-expression. Definitely another fundamental human need. Host meaningful events. I would say, for this one, it's providing a place for people to gather. Almost a bit of a gathering place, a meeting place, even a home for some, right? And then, of course, to create community. And I can also ask myself, who is this community for? If I really want to be more specific, I would say for me, it's for connected thinkers, people who are wanting to cross domains, break out of their silos of thinking and within their own jobs and industry and actually get to know others, because we realize that the gold, what's valuable, is actually not within our current domain, it's actually outside of it, right? Those are the best innovations. So connected thinking, connected thinkers, and that's also the basis for empathy. All right, talk to anybody without anxiety. Well, the reason why I want to get over my own social anxiety is so that I can have more meaningful conversations with people, right? And I think there's so much richness that's in all of you that if I don't get over my anxiety of approaching, then I'm never going to be able to unlock it, right? So to have meaningful convos. Okay, live off the grid for a year. Well, for me, this is about cutting out the bullshit in our lives, right? Ever since I came back from my trip to France, I've gotten very conscious of just how much noise and how much distractions there are in my life, in all of our lives, right? Our modern society is literally designed to force feed us distractions. So in a lot of ways, living off the grid is almost kind of like the ultimate detox, right? So I would say that simple living, which then leads to stillness and clarity. There's the other thing for me, which is, a theme in my life I want to hold to, which is enough versus more. I believe it was, Seneca who said that, if you don't know what's enough, you'll always be poor, right? Because there's always more. More is quite endless in that respect. And I think, every time I go into nature, I go backpacking and stuff, I come back and I'm so appreciative of the small things in life. Like even just going to Burger King and getting a burger for, I don't know, in 5 minutes, right? It's such a complicated food, and even running hot water, you get really appreciative of that. So simple living and enough versus more. And then the point of having meaningful conversations often for me is actually not just connecting with people, but also learning myself. And then this in turn turns me into a better teacher, better content producer as well. So there is meaningful conversations leads to being a good teacher. And I would say that creating that podcast actually also contributes to helping people and being a good teacher, right? And then finally, let's see, enough versus more, or actually living off the grid for a year, having that stillness and clarity actually really helps me with teaching also, because some of my best ideas and frameworks actually come when I'm not just, going about my day, being intentional about actually sitting down and letting these ideas percolate. That's actually going to help a lot with being a good teacher. And then let me see, having deep relationships also really help with having meaningful conversations. So we're going to draw another arrow right here. And then finally, there's creating community, right? Having a community of like-minded folks actually also contributes to more meaningful conversations. All right, I think at this point, we've got a pretty good idea of where the arrows are leading and originating from. And this is exactly what you want to pay attention to, which is the elements that actually have the most connections coming out of it or landing on it, because it can actually tell you a lot about what you want, right? So in my instance, I have meaningful conversations as both the destination and the origination for a lot of the arrows. So I'm going to actually start that because that is actually something very, very important to me. Drives a lot of purpose in my life. And then let me see. Being a great teacher, helping people is another important one that's landing. And then there is getting to know people. Yep, there's that. And then finally, adventure, which is capitalized for a reason, for emphasis, right? At this point, what you want to do is you can actually write out the different insights in a linear way, because that's actually easier to digest and return to rather than reading a mind map from scratch, right? And the point of this is, how do we distill this map into insights and then into actions? So let's take a look at that process. So for my map here, what I've done is I've written out my insights, which is I live for meaningful conversations with interesting people, right? Since so many of these arrows are pointing towards it. But to do that, I have to overcome my social anxiety first, right? Especially of approaching people, and then expose myself to more places and people through travel. And finally, carve out that time, space, and stillness to actually be present and be deep in conversation rather than just like be distracted. And in order to do that, I have to have that inner peace as well as goodwill. All right, so these are my insights that contribute to having meaningful conversations. Then we want to ask ourselves, what are some of the actions that we can actually take towards making these things more realistic, right? So for me, I've actually put it into an arrow with actions, right? What we have is a 2-week sprint. So overcoming my social anxiety of approaching strangers. Well, what I can do this is I can do a 2-week sprint goal of practicing eye contact or initiating conversations with strangers, right? I actually have a hard time just like, maintaining eye contact sometimes because it feels a little bit awkward for me. And sometimes you'll see me kind of like glance down, glance around, right? So in that sense, that's going to actually become more comfortable if I practice it more as well. And of course, be asking questions, be observant, and listen, actually generously listen rather than, just talk at people, right? And exposing myself to more places and people, well, travel and live abroad, we already know that. And then build community. This is where MindMap Nation really comes in, right? What I realize is that creating that community for connected thinkers is actually really important or really key contributor to having meaningful conversations. So I'm actually already working on MindMap Nation. And then finally, carving out that space and time to talk to people and be present. Well, meditation, nature retreats, and reducing the bullshit in my life creates that space and that stillness to do that. All right. So hopefully this gives you a good sense of how to go from mind maps, right, of a particular question, expanding it out, turning it into insights, and then translating it into actions that you can actually take in your daily lives. All right, now that we've gone through our first example, let's go through one more from day 8, because by this time, after doing an entire week of this, I can almost guarantee you that you're gonna be a lot more sophisticated with your mapping, right, as well as your connections. And you can kind of see here that, I've been able to flesh out far more because I've gotten used to thinking in terms of, mapping out the different factors, right? You become much more well-versed. So let's take a look at mine. So day 8 question is, how can I make a difference in the world? For me, it's by helping others reach their creative potential. This was literally the very first node that I drew because it's been my mission for the past 2.5 years since being on YouTube. And even before then, it was joining startups and tech to make an impact on the world, right? That's kind of how the Silicon Valley mindset has been in a lot of ways. So I'm a product of that. And I do that by essentially mind mapping, having structured thinking, intentional productivity, which then basically, being intentional about discovering our wants and desires, just like this video, right? So clarifying our why, discovering our why, and then doing it in 2-week sprints. And I also have here, it's almost like steps, right? It's like, what are the steps to do that? Well, first, you got to discover what you truly want, and then map it out, put it into goals and plans, and then take action using 2-week sprints, Pomodoro technique, as well as daily to-do mind maps. And then finally, you want to do a review and reflection through the retrospective, right? That's literally my intentional productivity framework. In the links below if you're interested. And then there is breaking down silos and walls, right? So in the words of Nassim Taleb, who is the author of Anti-Fragile, I also believe that our siloed thinking within our current domains, basically only thinking, when we do innovation or we create new products or what we do our daily jobs, we think typically just within our company or our domains, when the real gold is actually elsewhere. And this silo thinking actually fragilizes society because we're not thinking about the ripples that our actions take. So not only does breaking down silos is good for business and innovation, it's actually better for empathy, right? We're able to think in terms of other people or other locations or industries. And then also it's an important part of connective thinking. And it's both wisdom plus intelligence. All right, and then there is character. So character, at the end of the day, using the words of my business school professor, Arturo Perez Reyes, is not only knowing ethics or the right thing to do, but actually having the willpower to execute on it, right? Putting it to action. So in a lot of ways, all that means is becoming a better human, but by becoming wiser, more kind, more wholesome. Well, for me, it's actually my 3 adjectives that I want to live my life is wholesome, fiery, fun. And then growing from my mistakes and challenges. And finally, discipline equals freedom. Happy to go into any of these concepts in the future if you're interested. And then there is being my authentic self. So what I realize is that in order for me to actually show up to the world and be on YouTube in front of you guys, I need to actually be a better human being myself, right? I also need to be living my authentic life. Otherwise, it's actually way too difficult to live a double life, especially in, kind of the daily versus kind of on screen. And there's like a cognitive dissonance that I just want to avoid. And what that means is actually be myself and be self-examining through journaling and mind mapping, being a good partner, both to Olivia, both to, to my friends, to you guys, being able to actually gravitate more towards like the intimate conversations rather than the topical conversations. And then public, right? Being public about my failures, my lessons, my progress, sharing my journey with you, as well as, sharing my dreams, my goals and aspirations, right? All that then is changing through action, example, honesty, vulnerability, because true change actually comes from within. And with that, then I can actually create content that is based on the authentic self, then to help others reach their own creative potentials. And also becoming a better human being in the process. Next one is to learn. For me, learning is super important because it's like the input to my productive output. So that's through reading, listening, conversing, observing, and reflecting. Those are the most common ways. And then daily life. Well, so making a difference in the world through my daily life, honestly, it's just being a responsible citizen of humanity, right? Of the city. That's like picking up trash, for example, picking after myself. Respect people. I feel like often we just kind of pass through life and we just see people as just another person to say hi or smile at, but then that's it, right? It's like, how do we respect people by asking them how they actually do feel, right? How do we carve out the time to give people that time? Because I think everybody deserves to be respected. And then being there, right? Often we don't, when people come to us, they don't actually necessarily need us to troubleshoot anything. We just need to show up, right? Either for important events or to listen when they need an ear to lean on, right? So listen and bearing witness. And then also, one of my talents is actually being able to organize chaos and reflect for other people. So I can do that for example, on YouTube. And then consuming less, right? So this goes back to just kind of reducing the BS or bullshit in our lives. So this is reducing the clutter. In meditations, and Marcus Aurelius Meditations, he quoted something from Democritus, which is another philosopher, which is, if you want to be happy, do little, do less. Most of the things that we do in life is superfluous. Essentially, it's a waste of our energy, right? And it not just applies to material goods, but also to our thoughts and the things we say. So be more conscious about reducing and consuming less. And also, it's a lot more sustainable for the earth, for our environment. So this basically means reducing things, media, and resources. All right. Now that we've covered all of this, right, you can already see that I've drawn so many arrows. Like my daily life should be consuming less, but also leads to helping others. And then all my learning then can be used to help others. Being my authentic self helps me become a better human being, helps others, right? And then over here, it's what I notice is that a lot of it is landing into by helping others. Sure. But then what I can do is I can now create content at scale to break down silos, and through content, again, through media, help more people become better human beings. So all the arrows actually lead to here, which is, we're all trying to grow together, right? Either it's in our careers or in our personal lives. But I think at the end of the day, it's that progress as human beings that actually brings a lot of drive and a lot of purpose and optimism into all of our lives. So anyways, my insights is that change comes from within, right? In order to help the world, I have to change myself. I have to be a good person first, or try to be, right? And in the process of being. And then leading to that is being authentic, holding on to my values and owning up to my mistakes and learning from others. This might actually be not enough as an action. So I actually draw another arrow here, which then is I can share my burdens and my feelings with others, which actually requires both courage, as well as having the right vocabulary, to express myself. And then don't be defensive. Instead, listen generously with an open mind. This is super important. I used to be very defensive when people asked me questions because I felt like I was being challenged. These days, I try to reframe it in a way that I see questions as gifts. It's almost like you're gifting me an opportunity to think in a different way. And then there is actions around what I can learn on my journey to help others through my gift of structured thinking. Well, I can do it through content, conversation, and community, either through the MindMap Nation community, through the comments, or in real life, right? And then the last insight is less actionable, but more kind of like an end goal, which I think is always important for big questions like, how can you make a difference in the world? Which is, if we can all become better human beings, we can live in a better world, right? And pass these gifts down to our children. If you're interested in seeing the other mind maps, check out the link below. And if you're a MindMap Nation member, you'll be able to watch my in-depth walkthroughs for each of these maps, as well as join the 10-day Empower Mind Maps Challenge to get accountability, feedback, and meetups. If you like this video, please hit that like and subscribe button because it helps out this channel a lot. Or share with somebody who you think might actually help or benefit from this video. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, take care and see ya.